This is Main Street with Gary Allen. Now, here's Gary.
Main Street, Gary Allen with you, your humble but always happy host to see you. Hope everybody's been happy since the last time we ran into each other. And we've got a very interesting show today. Show that I've been wanting to get on the air for a while, but we has had some trouble. Well, that's great English for a journalism major. We have had a little trouble getting them on from time to time because you will see why in just a couple of minutes. It is a company that I used to work for when I lived in Chicago back in the late 80s, early 90s, when this program first became happening there. It was started by a group of other people, and they hired me because I was working in Chicago as a tour guide to begin with and as an actor somewhat. Got some good stuff coming our way very, very soon. I was in touch with Adrian Paul's people. You remember him, the Highlander. He'll probably be joining us sometime in October. We also happen to have from the Little House on the Prairie, Allison Ingram and Dean Butler joining us September 1st, and I'm really looking forward to that. And we've got a bunch of other little things coming up here in the not too distant future. So before I go too far, let me just tell you who I have on the program today. I have the good folks, the gang from Untouchable Tours. And let me tell you a little bit about them. They've been in business for over 35 years. Their tours are Thursday through Monday. One tour is at 11 a.m., another one at 1 p.m. It's 2 hours of the most fun you can have. If you're going to go to Chicago, you're going to visit, call these guys up at 773-881-1195. You'll see it on the bottom of the screen as the program progresses forward. And it'll be gangstertours.com. They take you back to the Prohibition era of Chicago. And they talk about some of the people that were involved in that, along with Al Capone and Bugs Moran and John Dillinger. And they take you to all the places where it happened, where the St. Valentine's Day massacre took place. Now, the building is not there anymore, but they can take you to where it was at one time. The Biograph Theater, along with a lot of places on the South Side. It's the most fun you can have for 2 hours on any given day, particularly if you're going to be there during the holiday times. And they're going to be back with us just before the holidays. Two of the people that are part of the program, we have Johnny Three Knives. This guy's definitely a cut above, and he makes Benihana look like nobody. And we also have Marie Genco. She's from the Genco olive oil business. And let me tell you something, this dame ain't no princess. She's got a rap sheet so big, it's divided up into chapters. So without further ado, would you please welcome the gang from Untouchable Tours? 1, 2, 3. There they are. Look.
How you doing?
What are we?
Hey, there we go.
Is that Rocco?
Yeah, I'm Rocco.
Hey, Rocco, I'll tell you what, Rocco is so mean and nasty that he goes and he haunts haunted houses at Halloween. That's how bad he is.
Uh-huh.
And also, I believe we also have Tony Antonelli. And Tony Antonelli has been in and out of Joliet so often, they've got a bail bondsman on speed dial. That's how bad it is. Anyway, welcome, kids.
Oh, hey, how you doing?
Likewise. Hey, yeah, I like it very, very much. As I was telling Maria here, I was one of the first tour guides that Cindy and the gang hired, as Jay knows, oh too well, when they first got started in the late 80s, early 90s, because I was doing tours at the water tower, the pumping station.
You don't look bad. You don't look bad. What are you, like 104 or something like that now?
Hey, watch it, Antonelli. You know what I mean? I got arrangements. You know, I worked in the Attorney General's office in Illinois. I can get you back into Joliet in no time at all.
Oh, I'm afraid. I'm shaking in my boots.
Shaking in her boots. Sounds like she's more from New England than she is anyplace else. I'll tell you that right now. Anyway, listen, what attracted you guys to Untouchable Tours to begin with? And anyone can begin to answer.
Get me out of jail.
The bus.
Maria, what about you?
Go ahead. Rides.
Bus rides. You like bus rides?
Oh, love them.
Yeah, absolutely. Maria, what about you?
Yeah, bus rides is a good one. I think the the having like free air conditioning on the bus especially really helps when it works.
When it works.
Yeah.
When it works. When the AC doesn't work, I just don't do a tour. We just sit there. But
That sounds like my ex-wife. All right, listen, Johnny, listen. I know you purchased the company some years ago from Cindy and Don, and I know you were a tour guide with them, and I know they've gone on to bigger and better things. But what's it been like over the years running Untouchable Tours? I know that we used to run 12 months out of the year, and it was a whole lot of fun. In particular, the wintertime. It was a whole lot of fun because it kind of gave that doom and gloom kind of thing of what gangsters were all about.
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot of things that can attract you to the tour. Kind of going to your first question, for me, I've always been a storyteller.
Yeah.
Anything to get a buck. If I can tell a quick yarn, why not? And there's a lot of great stories to be told in Chicago, and so accumulating those over the years, and then stepping up to kind of running things since the COVID shutdown.
Yeah.
There's been a lot to learn in figuring that process out, but the bottom line is that this is Chicago's original and best gangster tour. Like you said, you're not going to find better entertainment for 2 hours on the streets of the city, and that above all is what's kept things going.
You can't find interesting entertainment in Chicago. Like you can go down to the South Side and watch the White Sox lose, which is not necessarily what.
That hurts.
Well, they stink.
Lay off.
They stink. Let's be perfectly honest. I mean, I'm a North Sider. I lived at 535 North Michigan Avenue. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But I love Chicago. I missed it so much, except from February to April. Then I can do without it quite nicely. As actors, what do you guys bring to each role? I mean, as individuals, before you became part of Untouchable Tours, and you've been actors your whole lives, in a sense, what do you bring to the character you portray, and what have you learned about yourself and the character as you moved along with everything you've learned about Johnny Torrio, Diamond Jim, and Al Capone, which I don't know if Jay has told you, but I grew up with the Capone family in South Florida, where I grew up.
Palm Island, huh?
Well, no, actually in Hollywood, Florida, they own a bar on Hollywood Beach called Capone's Flicker Light.
Get out.
No, it's a Chicago style bar.
Wow.
And most of the kids, except for two, have all worked in law enforcement.
I know. His brother was a sheriff. I know.
Huh?
His brother was a sheriff, Al.
And
Al's brother was a sheriff in like Colorado or something.
Yeah.
But I like the tour because I like to bring hilarity to people.
I can see that.
And we go through all these neighborhoods, so it's showing a part of the city that a lot of people, they don't get to see when they go take a regular tour. So we go like by Chinatown and Little Italy and Greek Town, and we're showing, and the North Side, up by Oz Park, that was home to L. Frank Baum up there, my favorite movie, by the way.
Okay.
We're probably doing some of the same jokes that you probably done back in the original tour. I bet there's some lines that we're still doing.
They still kill.
And still every time. It's amazing. And so they just flow out of you. And I say them all the time. And it's like every time it's like I'm saying it for the first time.
Yeah.
I laugh every time. And I'm thinking, I bet this is the same line's been going on every single tour since the beginning. Some of certain lines,
Yeah.
Work.
Yeah, and of course you bring your own personality to it, your own character personality involved in it. And I always enjoyed it because we would go under the viaducts, and I was telling Maria and Jay before we went on the air that I used to wear a scar like Scarface had. And my buddy, who was a makeup artist in Chicago, I could peel it off. And I would move it around from one cheek to the other cheek, down to my chin, put it on my forehead, and see if anybody paid any attention to it, and sometimes they would, it would be funny. But Maria, what about you?
Well, I don't know if you could tell, but my mother was in high school when you started doing the tours. So I think for me, I like to bring youthfulness back into the tour
Yeah.
and kind of be like, hey, this isn't just for, you know, retirees, and this is cool and history's cool, and it's not, you know, I like to bring that. I also like to bring a lot of, I'm a big movie person, so my favorite part of the tour is when I get to point out Blues Brothers stuff. So I really like doing stuff like that.
Okay. And what's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie is Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Ah, that was being filmed in Chicago the first year that I lived there.
Yeah.
You're old.
That was I'm 72 years old.
And you look great.
Thank you, darling. Thank you so much. It's like, you know, my character, which was Nails.
Ah,
I will pass it on to you, you know, very much. Jay, what about you? Because
I can tell you lived in Florida. Right?
I grew up in Hollywood, Florida.
Yeah.
My dad was based there with Eastern Airlines. He was a captain, and but I've lived all over the place. I lived in Las Vegas, in L.A. As a matter of fact, I was on the phone with my buddy Adrian Paul's people this morning. The Highlander on TV. He's going to be on the show in October. And I lived in Hollywood as an actor, where I did Hill Street Blues and St. Elsewhere, and I was a member of the Groundlings for 2.5 years, which is the equivalent of Second City. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I knew a lot of the Second City actors, and some of them were really, really, really very good. Jay, what brought you to Cindy and the guys back in the day?
Oh, make a long story short, I got out here because I wanted to entertain people. I found a job selling knives, which was a scam, and so started looking for other work. And very luckily, came across this. I've always loved storytelling and entertaining. And growing up, the family was very into history. I loved doing history reports. Any vacations we took, other people were going to Cancun, we were going to Williamsburg or Gettysburg. And so finding this, was a perfect synthesis of the two. And I think, for me, it was kind of, bringing that combination of both things to the tour and the excitement that it welled up in me. Much like Rocco said, you can do these bits over and over. And certainly as you develop your own gangster, you find new things to add. You get questions from tours that maybe you didn't know the answer to. So you do some research, and over time that becomes part of your tour. But even the stuff that you've done forever, the core bits of the tour, it's a fresh audience every time. We're not in a dark theater where lights are in our eyes. We see the audience right in front of us in the daylight. We see how they react. We build off of that, and there's just something about that every time that keeps it so engaging.
Yeah.
Is Al Capone's pink bathroom, that building, still there, or is it gone now?
What you talking about? Up by Hollywood and Lakeshore?
Yeah, the one it's on the south side. And it's right down from the Coliseum, or what the Coliseum used to be.
No, they tore it down. They tore it down.
Is that pink? Is that bathroom still? That building still there? Or did they tear all that down now?
All gone. There's a new building there now in its place.
Man, we used to take people in there, and they would see that Pepto-Bismol pink bathroom, and they go, Al Capone. I said, well, he was eccentric, it wasn't anything. By the way, on the bottom of the screen there, if you want to get in touch with these people, it's the best 2 hours you're ever going to spend in your life, doing gangstertour.com. Call them at 773-881-1195. And Mr. Three Knives will give you a buzz. And he'll give you a nice cut on your price, too. I guarantee you. That's for sure.
You know what I like about it, too? One of my favorite things is the interactive aspect of doing the tour. Like you go back and forth, you're in character, and you talk back and forth with them, and you can say any wise answer, anything you want, you get away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody walked up and they said to me one time, "You look like a crook." I'm like, "Thanks, so do you."
It sounds like what my mother-in-law would have said to me. Anyway, which reminds me, doesn't remind me, it was my next question. How is the interaction these days? Do you find that people come in, especially people from foreign countries like Europe or Asia, and they think they know, but they really don't know. And when the tour is over, they go, man, I learned a great deal that I thought this is what it was, but it really isn't. Because let's be honest, the Prohibition era went on all throughout the country. It wasn't just Chicago. I mean, it went on everywhere. And for those who are not familiar with it, Prohibition, you could drink all you wanted, you just couldn't sell it. That was the whole thing about that. And it just set the guys up. But do you find that to be, with the questions they ask, and the interaction, as Rocco said, that people are like, suddenly they're like, whoa, I thought it was this, and it's really that.
Yeah.
I don't, you said something about foreign people not knowing. I'm sorry, but Americans, they don't know either. A lot of them, they don't understand.
Oh, no, they don't. You're right there.
And I mean, what I like to do is set up get the feeling of the time, describe what was happening. Like when we go by Colosimo's Cafe, I like to set up what that looked like,
Yeah.
And, it's the roaring 20s and, the jazz age. I like playing the music. The people get, it takes them back. But
Yeah.
usually if there's foreign people on, I will explain it more because about the amendment and the Constitution, it just doesn't become a law. Like I explained, it has to go back to the states, blah, blah, blah. But, and actually some Americans, they don't know it either.
No, it's true. I mean, most Americans don't understand American history to begin with. And the gangster era, the 20s and 30s, is brushed over between World War I and World War II. And they kind of zip through that in history. As a matter of fact, I don't ever remember getting to World War II until I went to college. And that was pretty much it, when I went to GW.
I mean, didn't it happen like 10 years before you got to college? So they were still like right.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, pretty much. I mean, my grandfather used to play football with Moses. So, I mean, it was
like they were still writing the book. You give them credit,
Yeah, Maria, I can see why you got a rap sheet as long as
chapter book.
As Donald Trump is fat. It's an interesting thing. Oh, here's another kitty. How many people? I have a cat too somewhere around here, Princess. But so what do you find interesting when it comes to the interaction? What are the most often asked questions that people ask of you? Because I think you could literally go into a Buddhist monk temple who's never seen television, movies, or anything, and say Chicago, and the word Al Capone is going to come out of his mouth.
That's right.
That's our business model.
Well, I got to tell you, growing up, I heard a lot of stories about him.
Yeah.
He could have been. He was intelligent enough to be the president of some of the major corporations in this country. He didn't set out to be a gangster. He just took the job with Johnny Torrio in New York as a bouncer because he needed the money for his family back in those days, back in the 20s and 30s, which, I was a teenager then. You needed to work.
Yeah.
You absolutely needed to.
Yeah, I think the story with the baseball bat, especially with
love that
McGurn, is so fascinating to talk about because it wasn't him. And I know in the movie they made it his character because they didn't feel like adding an extra character. But the fact that he made a point that whenever there was a hit job happening, he was not there just shows how smart he was because he knew he could make such a big public display where he's like, well, I have 20 alibis that say I was at this restaurant. I bought them wine. And I said, tell them Al Capone sent it to their table. I'm over here in this booth. I had no idea that there was that two guys got beat up, got murdered with a baseball bat. That wasn't me.
Yeah, that's what a guy like him does. Bugs Moran probably did the very same thing. Johnny Torrio did the same thing. Deanie O'Brien probably set up the same kind of a thing. By the way, did they ever? I don't remember because I never went to see. Did they ever repair the steps at the church where they shot Deanie down?
So yeah, if you go to the church today, like we do on the tour, the steps have been repaired, but you can still see damage, and we pointed out during the tour from that attack.
Talk about the tour now. It starts. One of them starts at 11 o'clock in the morning. Where does where does the tour start, and where's the first place you go to?
Yeah, so we pick up at 600 North Clark Street. It's very easy to find because the whole block is one giant McDonald's restaurant, and to help you out, right across the street is an old Rainforest Cafe. So if you see a building with a bunch of mushrooms on it, you'll know you're in the right place.
And then from there, it's 2 hours. You go to the south side, north side, etc., and everywhere in between. Are people are people more interested in the violent aspect of it, or do they want to know about the personalities of the people that were involved? There still is the mystery of whether John Dillinger is really dead or not.
Right.
The woman in the red dress or orange dress, I've heard both versions of it. They deported her right away. They didn't keep up with their thing. And by the way, I just want to tell you, when I was living in Chicago, and again, living on Michigan Avenue, they did the movie with my former classmate, Kevin Costner, The Untouchables. And I got to see Kevin quite a bit. And so he and I talked about a lot of things because he knew I was part of the tour company and et cetera. And we talked about an awful lot of things. And I found out an awful lot about, how they got him. They got him with the rigged jury and everything else. But is there anything that surprises you or surprised you as you were gathering your knowledge about that era for any of you?
Well, I think, just real quick, I'm sure everyone's got stories about this because, the first thing you learn is the material of the tour because we want to provide a great show for people and you pick that stuff up first. But then, your love for doing it and your curiosity from things you come across, you start to specialize in different areas. And, you brought up the Untouchables film with Kevin Costner, Robert De Niro. I'm a big film buff. And so, that's how a lot of the gangster media gets out there. And, if I've got extra time on a tour, I love bringing up films and things, how it looked, how things didn't go down, little bits of trivia here and there. And so I'll give the floor to somebody else in a second. But one of my favorite bits is, end of that film, they got Frank Nitti getting thrown off the courthouse. And of course, obviously, that didn't happen. He took over after Capone. But if you're watching The Godfather, that scene when Michael's got to run away to Sicily after they've taken care of the corrupt cop, there's the mattresses scene with all the newspapers spinning in.
Yeah.
One of those pictures on the newspapers, you'll see a guy laying back against a chain link fence, and that's the actual photo of Frank Nitti once he was done.
Yeah. That there was a lot of in Hollywood. There's a lot of licensing taking. This situation really didn't happen, or they combined the two episodes together and make it into one. And I know that was, something that I was quite used to when I was out in LA in particular. Maria, what about you? What did you learn that you thought, that surprised you the most when you were learning your script?
Yeah, well, again, Jay very graciously gave me a 35-page script and just said memorize this. So that was kind of all my research was pretty much done for me. But there were some moments where if construction, there's like a road that's closed, we have to go a different route. We would take a route that goes by where the site of the Chicago fire started. And I learned that one of Lady O'Leary's sons became a bootlegger for Diamond Jim's Cafe.
Huh.
And it was just that was just something that I just all Chicago's just combined. It's just the fire, Prohibition, and the Blues Brothers. So
the Blues Brothers were a little bit, after that, a few years anyway.
No.
But what did you learn what did you know beforehand about the tours?
I didn't know. I really did not know anything. I didn't know much. I hadn't even seen the Untouchables movie at that point. I've only watched The Godfather. I find the Prohibition era fascinating. I mean, it's not really The Great Gatsby is my favorite book, so I just love the 20s era. And then there was just a audition posted on a Chicago Auditions webpage about doing the tours, and so had a phone call with Jay, took his tour, and was sold from there. So, yeah.
Tony, what about you?
You're muted.
You muted yourself. Antonelli, you're muted. Rocco, till we get her back. What about you?
Well, I got hired. I got hired from. I had just gotten laid off another job, and I was really upset about it. And I found out about the Untouchable Tours, and they took me in, and I was so happy, and I was that was perfect for it. It was a perfect job for me, and I had just been in Tony and Tina's wedding, and so it was like I got right into it, and it took me a while to learn the script. I had to drive the bus. Back in the old days, we had to drive the bus and do the tour.
Yeah.
So you learned it by listening to the other guides, and then over time, you evolved and you started doing a little bit of the tour yourself, and then you would just switch off with the other guide and drive and do the tour, and it was always so much fun for me, and that's how people just show up, and all of a sudden they'd be a guide, and then a new guy came one time, and Craig, who was running it then, I said, where'd you get this guy? He says, oh, another stray dog. And that's kind of how it is, like how people just kind of show up, and it's almost like being in a real gang.
What I loved about Craig was his facial expressions.
Yeah.
He was always happy-go-lucky. And back then we not only did the tours, but we also did. They were filming some games back then, and we were videotaped in there. Cindy got us some jobs doing that too. We did all kind of stuff all over town.
Right.
It was a whole lot of fun for me as an actor coming from LA, since I had more or less said, enough of the acting stuff. I'd had enough of it, in my life. I've been doing it since I was 9 years old, and I just about had it. Of course, when I was 9 years old, the Civil War was going on, and, there wasn't a whole lot going on. We did reenactments of the Gettysburg, as often as we possibly could. But what surprised you the most, Rocco, what did you learn that you thought you knew, but you didn't know?
I never knew about that back in Prohibition era. You knew of speakeasy because they paint the door green. So that's how you knew about it. Like the little things like that, that I just assumed people knew how to get around, but little details like that of how people actually behaved during Prohibition, the little things that went on, and how people seemed to drink anyway, and it was kind of out in the open anyway, even though it wasn't supposed to be a thing. And I never really knew that about it either.
Yeah. Well, people will do strangest things sometimes when they think they're not going to get caught. And since there weren't cell phones back in those days, they could get away with murder, basically. No pun intended. But nowadays they can't do that. Everybody's their own reporter with a cell phone and all that. Do we have Mr. Antonelli back? No, I can't. No. No, I guess the microphone is not working or something. You can barely hear me?
I think Rocco might be able to go lend some assistance.
Oh, okay. Oh, they're in the same household then, I guess. Okay, that'll be fine. Where are things going now? I know that back when I worked there was the black bus. And I know I recently saw it on an episode of Chicago Fire, because a buddy of mine called me up who's on Chicago Fire, and he said, hey, do you know this company, Untouchable Tours? We got this bus on the set. I said, yeah, I used to work for them when I worked there. Is that bus long gone?
Yeah, so when I started, we had the old black school bus that had the bullet holes in the side and everything.
Yeah.
And it was tons of fun. It felt like an old prison bus. It felt very authentic. But at the same time, just as traffic has kind of slowed down in the city, just citywide, it had gotten harder to keep things moving. And the AC in that wasn't the best, so it had to be windows down in the summer. Ended up trading that out for a bus. We had another one for another 2, 3, 4 years. We traded that one out right before COVID. And so as we've gotten relaunched, we're now renting buses, which there's a back and a forth with that, where we can't necessarily like load on as much, or we can't pre-check it ourselves beforehand. But at the same time, we're renting from a place that is a fleet of buses, so they're able to help us out when things happen, ideally. And we're kind of figuring out that process as we keep going.
I see we have Antonelli now over in Rocco's little camera.
Yeah, my sound cut out like 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's sort of like some of the people you do business with.
Yeah. Oh, see, I used to do the city tour, so in case there is a diversion, and actually, right after we leave the Holy Name Cathedral, we go down Michigan Avenue. So there are a lot of touristy things that I do have to point out, so people get that also. And I know the history of Chicago, and I try to mix it in with the gangster stuff.
Yeah, it's it's so much fun to impart knowledge on people. One of the things I used to do during the summer, if we weren't busy, I'd do a double-decker bus tours. Back there was a company that used to have the old English style double-decker buses, not the more modern ones. And but I used to work for that guy occasionally here and there, and it was a whole lot of fun. And I really have always enjoyed history, like you guys, and I've always enjoyed learning about people and what makes them tick. And so let's talk a little bit about some of the characters during the gangster era. Do you guys have a favorite character that really amuses you of all the guys, maybe other than Al? I mean, although Al was, for according to what his brother told me, he was quite amusing all by himself. He really was. He's actually quite funny and very, very nice when he was away from the gang. He wasn't this notoriously idiotic guy.
Murder you, yeah. Listen, Gary, I'm going to have to leave and because I have another job.
You do? What are you doing? You working at the morgue or what? What are you doing?
Oh, I fill in as a teacher for my Uncle Frank's Barber College. I have a class on bangs. Yeah, so I gotta go. So
hey, listen, thank you so very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
Good hair, because I'm at this barber college. Nobody, it just doesn't, come like this. You gotta work. I know.
Yeah, you got to work on that kind of stuff. Okay, yeah. Antonelli, I'll make sure the warden and Joliet knows you're on the way.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.
All right. Anyway, but do you guys have a favorite? I mean, I'm sure that Rocco's going to be, but there he is. Do you guys have a favorite character of all the ones? And let's go through some of them. Deanie O'Brien and Johnny Torrio. Johnny Torrio only made Al a partner because he realized if he didn't, he could end up dead. Because Al at that point became extremely ambitious. And I remember talking to Rod Steiger, who played Al in a movie black and white movie. And he said, oh, yeah, he says the guy who was scared to death of Al. And Johnny, he left, he left the whole business and went back to New York and lived out a long and happy life. But are there favorite characters that you have on the tour and places? Maria, my love.
I think my favorite place to talk about is Dillinger and the Biograph Theater. And I think one of the reasons is just because that is one of the only spaces that is so still there. Like we'll point out certain things, like it's like, hey, look, this is where the St. Valentine's Day Massacre occurred, but the building's not there anymore. But it's like the marquee of the Biograph is still there. And as someone who just loves theater and loves movies in general, like I love that it's a movie theater and the marquee. And then we have the alleyway that's still there. And there's a mural in the alleyway. And so I really like talking about that story. It's also just so fascinating because of the whole thing where, he's not really dead. He's hanging out with, Tupac and JFK and Elvis and that whole story. And it's that was one of my favorite. That's my favorite thing to talk about in the tour.
God bless the Q and all people. I'm telling you right now, God bless them. And do you guys still talk about women supposedly dunking their handkerchiefs in his blood?
The hems of their skirts. They dip the hems of their skirt into the dresses to soak some up. And then little kid on the corner selling a newspaper, ripping it to shreds, soak some of the blood up, sell for $10. Yeah.
Yeah, those were weird times. But Maria, I remember those times. I was there.
I believe it.
And by the way, not Melvin Purvis, but for some reason the name escapes me now. The one that got Capone.
Ness.
Ness.
He was run out of the FBI. He was literally run out of the FBI. He wasn't this big time crime fighting guy to begin with. Anyway, Kevin and I talked about that. He said, no, he wasn't. He was a middle guy in the FBI.
When he wrote that book, he was a drunk. He had been kicked out as mayor of Cleveland. He was arrested for drunk driving. And he was really obscure at that time. But so
he was arrested for drunk driving, so decided to fight Prohibition.
No, this was after the fact.
It was after.
Mayor of Cleveland and everything, and then he just was washed up, and he wrote that book, and then it's not even true, but
Yeah.
Took
But
off.
I gotta tell you something, Rocco. If you get drunk and get fired as the mayor of Cleveland, I would consider that a badge of honor. You know, I mean, I've been to Cleveland. Real quick story. I have a half brother who's no longer with us, who spent 14 years playing for the Baltimore Colts, and I was in Cleveland when we had to play them to go to Super Bowl III. It was like 3 degrees. I mean, come on already. I turned to my brother. I said, would you get this damn game over with? I got to get back to Florida where it's warm. Jews, we don't belong in cold weather. We really don't. You know, at least when they sent me to Vietnam, it was a warm place anyway. You know, I didn't like the accommodations, but it was a warm place. But Rocco, for you, what was your favorite character and favorite place?
Oh, geez. I think the same. My favorite character, I think, also is Johnny Torrio because of the way he's the one that built the whole mob, the infrastructure of the Chicago gang.
Yeah.
And my favorite spot is the actual St. Valentine's Day Massacre site itself.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though the building's gone, you can still see exactly where everything happened. And we can describe it to the people, and they're looking out and they're imagining it. They're seeing it, through the description, and you can just look at them and they're all staring, they're watching, taking pictures, and so.
Is it still an empty lot?
Yeah.
Isn't it funny that they've never tried. Cindy and Don told me when I first got started that nobody's ever tried to or taken out a building thing to build anything on that lot ever.
Right. Yeah.
There's a theory to that the city still doesn't even want the address to exist anymore.
Really?
22 North State, not doing it.
Well, the only innocent person killed that day was Dr. Reinhold Schwimmer.
Yeah.
He was an optometrist. I think he was an optometrist.
Just like playing cards with him. Yeah.
And then the dog, the German Shepherd, was so traumatized by what went on that eventually after 3 months, they took the dog out to the farms to try to calm him down, to figure maybe he would calm down after a while. And he never did. And they eventually had to put him to sleep. He was so traumatized by that. But yeah, and of course, Bugs Moran's famous statement was when a reporter said, who would do something like this? When Bugs was in the hospital, he said, "Mister, you must be new to this area. There's only one person that kills like that. And that's Al Capone." And Capone was down in Miami on Sunny Island,
Exactly.
but it's funny. Even his son says Al got it in the end. He was stricken by syphilis and everything else in the whole world. Plus, when he was in Alcatraz, he snitched on everybody.
Yeah, he'd get beat up all the time.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't this tough guy that everybody believes. Now, the guy that I liked, and Jay, we're going to get to you in a minute, was Diamond Jim. I love that guy. His wife ran a brothel. I mean, his wife was, I don't know, I've seen pictures of her. She wasn't, and I'm telling you right now, one of those things. But I liked his story. Now, are the blocks still there? Because they swore, at least Don and Craig and I looked into it more. I had a friend that lived the South about that those blocks came from the Southern Confederate prison, Andersonville, but we were never able to pin it down that that's exactly where those white blocks came from. But supposedly that's where they came from.
Where?
Where there used to, where the business was, it was an empty lot, and there was these big stone, white, marble, whatever blocks. There was like 15 or 20 of them. The only things left in the lot, and we were told that they came from Andersonville, the Confederate prison. Now, we were never able to pin it down, but that's what the city of Chicago said. That's where they came from. Now, I don't know if that's is that an empty lot today, or did they finally build something on it?
So it's no longer empty. It was a parking lot for business for a while, and I've heard other stories about bits of Andersonville being used for construction in Chicago, and those big white blocks. They would have been there before my time, but I do know that there's a White Castle very close by now. So
there's a White Castle, so.
Well, that's okay. Well, according to Maria, I probably would remember that from Andersonville, because I would be a teenager by that particular time. But Jay, what about you? What's your favorite part of the tour and your favorite person?
I mean, there's so much to enjoy, and it's interesting because I would say, we've talked about Johnny Torrio. I think, from a historical standpoint, he's one of the guys I'm most interested in because he's a gangster that gets to retire, and that's a pretty rare story.
Oh
And
yeah.
then, well, like Marie said, when I first did the tour, the first bit that I did was John Dillinger because it's such a fascinating story and it's so neat to point out the biograph. But I would say something that I really enjoy is right out of the gate going to the church, and I love talking about the beer wars, and in particular Jaime Weiss. Just
Oh
this
yes.
this psychotic killer who's frothing at the mouth. He's lost a buddy. He's out for revenge. It sets up so many other stories, and for the flow of the tour, it really helps to get the audience, into the mindset, into the era, and into the flow of how things are going to be.
Yeah. Jaime Weiss was, I mean, well, let's be honest with you. I mean, all right, they ran businesses with the flower shop and everything else like that, but they didn't think. They didn't think. They didn't use the brain behind the ears. They used the somewhere else. Their first reaction to anything was violence. It was like watching a hockey match. It's like, I went to a hockey match and a fight broke out. Or better still, as my brother Greg says, God bless him, he's a priest. He says, I went to a boxing match and a hockey game broke out. I mean, oh, you guys would love my brother. He's a Greek Orthodox priest. Who's making a little sounds?
Chicago. What can I say? They're after me.
Oh, all men would be after you, honey. I mean, come on, let's face it. You're a hot dame. You know what I mean? You got it working for you. So, are you guys all from Chicago originally?
I don't think any of us are.
Where are you from, Marie?
New York.
New York?
Yeah.
Where are you from, Marie?
I was born in Indiana and I was raised in Central Illinois, Normal, Illinois.
Yeah, well, when I was in the AG's office and he ran for governor, I knew where every McDonald's was in Illinois because we ate at more McDonald's and Burger Kings than anything else. Poor Neil Hardigan, God bless him. I don't even know if he's still with us anymore or not, but he was a great boss. He really, really was. Is there anything going to be new going on, Jay, as far as any additions to the tour at all? Because there's so much rich history about the gangsters in Chicago. I mean, it's a never-ending story of places that they were, things that they did. I mean, and again, like I said at the beginning of the program, this wasn't the only city where it took place. It's just that you had Al Capone. He got all the notoriety. The newspapers were there, and the gangland killings, which went on in other places too, even down in Miami Beach, which was considered a neutral zone for all the gangsters to go. Now, I don't want to get people confused. This is not the mafia. These guys were not members of the mafia. These were gangsters, but they weren't the Costa Nostra. Believe me, I know. I grew up with a couple of kids whose fathers were in the mob. Yeah, Maria, I know. In Hollywood, Florida, that was a neutral zone for everybody. There was a restaurant down there that I used to park cars at, and it was a neutral zone. And all the mobsters would come in from Rhode Island, New York, Chicago, St. Louis, etc. And we would park their cars. And Gotti would come in there all the time. Whether you touched his car or not, he tipped every valet $20 in and out, in and out. And he was a very flamboyant individual. His last name fit him perfectly, Gotti. And Rocco, you're about the only one that would know what I mean by Gotti as far as one's personal appearance. I guess. I don't know. Maria, would you understand that? Yeah. Yeah. All right. That's nice. Yeah, absolutely. So what's coming up new? I mean, what new additions are we adding to the tour that's going to make it even bigger and better and more beautiful?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very interesting time to be doing the tour, is because we're coming up on the 100-year anniversary of a lot of the events we talk about. And so what that means for us is, one, we're always trying to grow the tour. We want to do more tours per day, more days per week. And we go year round. So, folks in Ohio, we were talking about it being cold. We've got a nice warm bus you can come visit. We'll keep that going for you as well.
All right.
But, we get different programs that come by. So there's interviews we do. We get news teams coming by. We're talking about different anniversaries of big events coming up. Mm-hmm. You had mentioned films coming into town a couple years back. You can find, if you go to the Smithsonian Channel, you can find Rocco and I and a couple of old gangsters in a bootlegging documentary they did. So we're always looking to do more, and this is a neat time to be doing it. And the other neat thing is, we bring history to life, which is great. We make it more interesting, and we try to breathe that comedy and story into it. And at the same time, people are still finding things out. A journal's hidden behind some brick wall somewhere. couple years ago, in the basement of the Tribune, they found a bunch of old negatives that they got developed. So there's all these new images. We're always looking for something new and a fun angle to play with what we already know is a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great 2 hours. Tommy, put that up there again, would you please? Give these folks a call at 773-881-1195 or go to gangsterstour.com. And coming up on the holidays, and I'm going to have these guys back sometime end of October, beginning of November. We're going to talk about that, Jay, in the next couple of weeks, about having you guys back, because in the holiday season is really great, particularly for the tours. I always thought so. I always thought the winter months were great because it brought kind of an interesting atmosphere as you're going around town and you're talking about the gangsters and you're talking about this and you're talking about that. Yeah. And, but what do you think was the common denominator amongst all of these people? Johnny Torrio and Al Capone and Jaime Weiss. I mean, was it greed? Was it power? I mean, did they all have a common denominator, or was it different for each and every one of them, in your opinion, that you've learned something about them?
I think, my opinion on it quick would be you could look at greed, determination, guile, as far as, being willing to do things other people weren't. But I think it's why the era is so interesting. The common denominator is the setup. It is the era. Any of these guys could have been the crooks that they were before Prohibition and gone on for a little while. But the situation of Prohibition just injected all of this money into it that got so many more people involved, made it this big nationwide thing. And that's what leads to the stories getting as big as they do.
Marie?
Yeah, I was agreeing with that, where I was, again, first off the bat, I say just greed and just power, and always wanted to one up the guy behind him. And but I think another thing is Prohibition was just such a thing that didn't really understand why it was like, why are we just trying to, it's just like government's trying to find something to control. We're going to control this. And it's like, guess what? People are going to do it anyway, regardless of whether you, and now it's something that we talk about towards the end of the tour, where it's like, let's take a look at this. Everybody's still drinking. There's violence now. People are getting murdered every which way. People are getting sick because of how we're trying to make alcohol. And, we're just, gangsters are making money. And so there's no point into having this anyway. And so I think it was just kind of like why is this a thing?
Rocco?
I think these guys came up from the streets, and they were poor and they were ruthless. They'd do anything to make a buck, and it didn't matter who was in their way. And, they just joined a gang and had a rough life. Didn't live that long, And
No, they didn't. No, they didn't. I mean, the guys that were killed in the St. Valentine's Day massacre, they were all young. They weren't that old, know. The funny thing is that other than Schwimmer killed in the St. Valentine's Day massacre, there weren't that many innocent people killed by these guys.
Right.
There really wasn't. I mean, the mob themselves, the mafia, they don't go after your wife or your children. They go after you.
Yeah.
Now, if you're talking about, or like where I grew up with the Cuban mob and the South American mobs, they'll go after your wife, your cousin. They go after your dead grandmother already laying in a grave. I mean, they're ruthless. They have absolutely no shame, no conscience at all whatsoever. I wonder who that reminds me of. Current occupant of the White House, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, anywho, what would you like to do, Maria? What would you like to bring to Untouchable Tours? And Jace right there, so he can't run and hide from what you want.
No, and I think like Jay, and actually, I mean, he can deny this all he wants, but I think we have a decent rapport between each other, of me saying like, hey, there was something we added onto the scrapbooks a while back was QR codes. So people just, I was like, hey, this is just an easy way to, people scan it right there and can leave us a review, as opposed to, oh yeah, I was going to leave them a review. It's just so much. I'm like, people are getting lazy these days. So I'm just trying to think about, for me, just trying to think about how we can form the business to accommodate the laziness of people. And whether that's, the QR codes, we've been talking about some like different merch ideas to also bring more advertisement into the business. Even like having an Instagram and just, ways that we can bring it more in a era of technology as well as an era of laziness. So,
Rocco, what about you, man?
I think make it more fun. Make it fun for people. That's what they remember,
Yeah.
Good time, laughing and learning a lot. People a lot of times will go up to the tour and they said, I was left. It was really funny. It was enjoyable, but I learned a lot too, And I think I always keep that up, the aspect that learn something. And, that's what people remember,
Before you guys can, we've got about 5 minutes, a little less than 5 minutes to go, believe it or not. What's on the statement for you, Maria and Rocco and Jay, as far as outside of Untouchable Tours? Are you acting in any plays or anything? I know I was on the board of directors for the Absolute Theater Company for a while when I lived up there. I don't think that exists anymore either. Nothing existed when I was there. Nothing.
Well,
It's all gone.
It was 100 years ago. So.
Yeah. Thanks, Maria, for reminding me that. I was going to ask you to marry me, but now that you've been, I think I'm so old, there'd be no point to it. I'd be dead before I say the I do's.
I mean, it's an Anna Nicole Smith, never say never.
Oh, please. Anna Nicole Smith. Yes. I actually know people that knew her back in the day. But what's up for you? What's coming up?
For me, I actually, since I graduated college, I went to school for musical theater actually. So this kind of
cool.
my acting. And while I audition every once in a while, I'm more a singer route. So I'm currently in a band. We play every once in a while in Chicago. And I think we're actually starting to record and put out a single in the next couple of months. So
absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. So
I wish you well, young lady.
Yeah, thank you.
Coming from an old codger like me.
Yes.
Rocco, what about you?
Well, I do a lot of storytelling, and I'm in a lot of storytelling shows. And coming up in the fall, I'm going to be doing a one-person show, an hour-long one-person show at the theater at Berger Park.
Cool. Jay?
Oh yeah. Aside from this, I audition for shows. I also do a lot of violence and intimacy design. So currently, if you're coming to Chicago through September, Angels in America at Invictus Theater, we're doing both parts, and it's one of the top shows in the city right now. And I'll just be looking to do more of that work as time goes on. Violent Delights is the name of our company. You can find us Violent Delights Chai on the internet or on Instagram at Violent Delights. And if you're looking to tell a story with some physicality to it, we're your people.
All right. I thank you all very much. Stay right where you are. When we go off the air, we'll talk afterwards just for a couple of minutes. If you want to get a great 2 hours of your life, please, whether it be now or during the holidays, 773-881-1195, Untouchable Tours, gangstertours.com. They're fantastic. They do a great job. They're going to be back with us. And I just want to thank all of you for tuning in. Next week, I think I don't even know who I have next week. I've been booking so many people lately, I even forget who I have. Well, it's as Maria would say, it comes with the age, the gray hair and the whole bit. I'm out to lunch anyway. I forget everything. Until we meet again, take care of yourselves and God bless.
Take it easy.